it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 13 of Orb on the movements of the Earth, and I'm super excited about this episode. I'm super excited. I'm also curious as to whether I'm going to end this episode being inspired, heartbroken, shocked, or all of the above. Probably all of the above. But yeah, so when we last left off, Badeni is trying to escape. Badeni is trying to escape with his heliocentrism theory so that he can go publish it, and he has all these plans. But Nowak has showed up with the Inquisition, and Aksha's like, I'm just going to sacrifice myself so that you can keep going. Now, the question is, what's going to happen to Aksha? Is he going to die in this episode? Is he going to get taken by Nowak and tortured in this episode? The very first few seconds of episode 1 would lead us to believe the latter, but I don't know. Is Badeni going to get away? Or is he going to get captured by Nowak? Nowak's all by himself now, so I don't know. I think the only thing that lends to the fact that Badeni could get away is the fact that the other guards are dead. That Aksha killed them. I think that's the only thing that is preventing Badeni from being caught, but we don't know. Someone could have found out about the tunnel, and there could be guards waiting on the other side for Badeni when he tries to escape. So it's like, I don't know until I watch this episode, and that's kind of where we're at. But before we get started, I do have 2 comments I want to talk with you all about before we get into this. The first one is by Lottie Cello for episode 9. Lottie Cello says, the Yolenta monologue at the end of the episode speaks to me personally to such a degree. I just really can't believe how right now, basically, everyone has a way to read and write, no matter if you're rich or poor. It's truly mind-boggling how we have the potential to leave our thoughts preserved forever. How we can indirectly communicate with people that lived thousands of years before us and with those who will live long after we're gone. And how we basically have an easy access to almost all of the knowledge in the palm of our hands with the internet. To think that they want to take this from us, to make machines think and write and paint for us so we don't have to do anything. I'm so sad about it. Yeah, that's why I don't support AI. I understand that AI artificial intelligence has a purpose to try to be an aid to humanity, like to do menial task jobs, like compiling data, like instead of you going through an Excel spreadsheet and spending all the time calculating things, yeah, sure. You want to save some time doing a tedious menial task, sure. But when it comes to things that are connected to our culture, like reading and writing and artwork and artistry, I don't want AI to have any part of that because, one, it doesn't have a soul. I'm sorry, right now it doesn't. Maybe one day it will, but it doesn't right now. We're not at the Terminator phase. But 2, it's just, I don't think even if AI did gain a consciousness, it would not compare to humanity's in the way that we know it as humans. So I can't support AI, and I sound like such a curmudgeon when my friends share AI things. I'm like, I don't support this, and they're like, okay. And then I don't share anything that's AI. I don't want to do that. I don't want to support anything that would take away from an artist. I just can't do that. And I feel like I wish younger people could hear that you are so privileged, no matter what your socioeconomic condition is, you are so privileged to not only have access to technology, and it is somewhere, even if you don't have money for a computer or a phone. There's a public library right now that's probably open that you can go to for free. There is probably, if you go to a school, there's access to the internet there that's free. Like, there's ways to read and write and gain knowledge that is right at your fingertips that even 100 years ago, some groups of people would not have access to. And so there is so much privilege there that I think people take advantage of so easily. And it does make me sad too. But those of us that know and continue on to make this accessible and to make sure that writing and reading and the arts stay in the hands of humans and accessible to people, I think that's what's important. So I'm glad you made that comment. And then Yolsel Crescent said in episode 10, I also wanted to point out regarding your comment about Badeni might not believing in heaven. In episode 6, I think, when Aksha asks him whether his research will sentence them to hell, Badeni replies, we're standing at the entrance, all right, the one to heaven, which then sends Aksha into his little existential crisis and revelation. I definitely think that came full circle back last week when Badeni was like, you're going to hell, and Aksha was like, I don't care, bring it on. I thought that was a nice callback to that. And then they said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to lie, but your jokes about Aksha writing fan fiction cracked me up. I'm glad someone found it funny. If only Badeni knew all the fan fiction that's out there about him and Aksha, he'd have a conniption. P.S. Someone made a fan art in the same vein as your joke on Tumblr. Leave it to Tumblr. Tumblr is like the treasure trove of the internet. So I'm not gonna lie to y'all. It has been so tempting. It has been so tempting to go online and look up ORB fan fiction. It's been so tempting, but I've held myself back. I've shown immense restraint because I didn't want to be spoiled on what's going to happen in this series. And we're halfway through. So I'm like, if Romania can make it to this point, I can make it to the end. It's fine. But then the floodgates will be open and you better darn believe I'm going to be looking up a lot of fan fiction and a lot of fan art of these. Luckily, though, the Discord has been keeping me very well fed in terms of fan art. So those of you on Discord sharing fan art of Badeni and Aksha and all of the renditions of them, as well as Hubert and Ringo Starr fan fiction, fan art, thank you. Y'all kept me fed and also have helped me keep from looking up spoilers. So that's been a big help. But yeah, so I don't have anything else to say. I got my coffee poured. I'm ready. I have lots of ideas about what I think is going to happen, but I don't have anything concise. So it's going to be fun to see what all we get. So yeah. Anyway, I hope you all enjoy this reaction and discussion that will follow afterwards, but we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to start episode 13 of ORB on the movements of the earth. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. I need you all to understand. Okay, look. We're gonna get to Badeni, and we're gonna get to Badeni with Aksha in the Inquisition room. We're gonna get to that moment. We're gonna get to it. Don't you worry. I'm gonna save all my inner energy for that freak out moment when we get to it. So I'm just gonna give you a fair warning. When I start doing this, that means you probably need to like watch your ears. When I start doing this, that means I'm about to like scream and have a fangirl shipping freak out, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. So this episode did not go entirely as I predicted. I thought Badeni was going to get away. There is a part of me that is like, okay, what else does Badeni have up his sleeve? Because 2 things. 1, Badeni does not like to not get his way. So I feel like Badeni has done something. We don't know what yet, but I feel like the treatise that he gave them, I'm like, is that really the heliocentric one? Because he knows they're going to trash it. So I'm like, is that really the heliocentric theory that he worked on? Or did he give it to Yolenta? We're going to talk about that whole thing. And she's taking it somewhere. I don't know. So there is that. Badeni is usually someone that likes to not be wrong and also get his way. So there's the fact that he was so kind of nonchalant, and I know he was trying to put on a face for Nowak. We'll find out next episode, I'm sure. I can't believe I thought we were going to get a lot of answers today. Like I figured Aksha was going to get tortured today. Walking in, I was like, if Aksha doesn't die, he's going to get tortured. And I did not anticipate that we were just starting that process and it's going to carry over into next week. I did not anticipate that. The other thing with Badeni is, 1, the whole thing with the book, like the book he had on heliocentrism, where is it? Did he really give it up to the Inquisition and they have it now? Or was there something else he did? The other thing, I've lost my train of thought because I'm trying not to talk about shipping yet. We're gonna get to the shipping part. But the other thing with Badeni, not only I remembered it. Two. So 1, the book. Badeni, would he really let the Inquisition get the book because he doesn't want to be proven wrong? His whole thing is about being special. His whole thing is about getting credit for the heliocentric theory and nobody else matters. So did he really just hand over all of his research, everything in the book to the Inquisition, or did he have a plan B? And 2, I say that because I think that Badeni knows that Aksha is not dumb. He knows that. But he knows that Aksha is pure. Aksha has a lot of naivete in how pure-minded he is, that Aksha believes in the best of everyone. And Badeni is a lot more realistic, where he's like, no, this person's garbage and I know it. And so there's a part of me, like, when Badeni burned the book that Aksha gave him. Now, granted, Badeni also read through that book, so he probably already knew kind of what was the gist of The gist of it was, which the fact that we as the audience don't get to find that out is crazy, and I hate it, and we'll never get to find it out because they're both probably going to die. Aksha is going to die because he assaulted Nowak, so he is going to die. So he won't get to write his book anymore. It's like, what? But I feel like Badeni knows that if he tells Aksha there's nothing left, there's nothing, I've burned everything. Did Badeni burn everything? Maybe. Maybe he didn't. Is Badeni capable of lying? Yes, he is, because he just did about Yolanta. So he very much is capable of lying. And I was like, oh, okay. So I personally do not believe 100% everything Badeni is saying. I feel like it's sort of like the creator of this series has read Attack on Titan, because so many, and it's amazing that I'm wearing this shirt today because this is from Attack on Titan. The stars are aligning all over the place, as it would be. But I feel as if the author in Attack on Titan, and I'm not going to spoil Attack on Titan, y'all, go read it, go watch it. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite series. And this series tackles so much of Attack on Titan just with more of a realistic historical anime grounding. There is a saying in Attack on Titan that every lie is filtered with the truth, which Badeni is utilizing that very handedly. The problem is he's also up against someone like Nowak, who does the exact same thing. So it's like an immovable object meets an unstoppable force. And it's just like, they're just clashing like this, which is why we're going to get, I'm not using both hands because that's when I'm going to yell. When we get to the shipping part, I'm like, oh, so anyway, I just think that Badeni is not telling us something. And I don't feel like, I feel like Badeni has enough realism in him to know that Aksha's going to die. He may not want to see Aksha tortured, but Aksha, the problem is Aksha can't talk, and he's about to have that pear of anguish in his mouth, which is going to make that even worse, or incapable of it. I don't know. I'm dreading that. If Badeni we're not to that point yet. We're not going to go into it. Just you wait. I'm going to freak out. Anyway, what I also want to freak out about before we even get there is Aksha, when he says we're about to find out, and that stance of him down with the sword like he was ready to go. Why was Aksha the most attractive force to ever... I get it, Badeni. I get it. We're going to wait on that to talk about it. But no, Aksha was just, Aksha was giving anime crush vibes. I was living for him. He was amazing in this moment against Nowak. And honestly, what I like about it is they prefaced this so well in the very beginning when we met Aksha's character, to know that he was one of the people that were patrolling and were in charge of handling heretics and people that got out of hand, so he has combat experience. That was so well set up, and to see it finally come back and be used. Nowak almost died. I feel like Aksha hesitated to kill him because of Yolanta, and you can't hesitate, so interestingly enough. But also, the idea of the way that Nowak looks down upon him is just, Nowak looks down on him like, bitch, you got my daughter involved in all of this. And then for him to take the knife, and because Aksha has really good eyesight, he could see the sword, the blade coming. He could see the gleam on the tip of the blade. For him to put it in his arm, you know how much that would hurt? That would hurt so much. Honestly, if you've ever watched like one of the recent Resident Evil movies, which I only know about because Red Letter Media did a parody watch of it, that's what they were going for. What Aksha did with Nowak is what Resident Evil's movie was going for and did not succeed in. But oh my gosh, so freaking good. And I love this fight so much. I thought initially he got tranquilized. And then my mind went blank for a second, and I thought, when did tranquilizers get made? Were they around during this time? And then we find out it's an arrow, which, That makes all the sense, because when Novak first showed up with 4 people, I was like, really? You're coming to get 2 grown-ass men that one you believe is highly capable of fighting back, and you only brought 3 other guys, one of which does not seem competent at all and ends up falling on his own sword and dying? Really? That's all you brought? But him having backup makes all the sense now. But that just, everything about that, he's like, well, this is a dilemma. You were prepared to die. And when Aksha says, yeah, I guess so, I was like, Aksha won me over. Aksha, I mean, don't get me wrong. Raffle is my foundational character that I latched onto, that I was like, I want to protect Raffle. I want to gently hold him and keep him close to my heart. But Aksha is my favorite character in this so far. He won me over. And him saying the fear of dying is nothing compared to the fear of placing hope in this world. That feels like a translation error, kind of, but also so good. He nearly killed Novak, though. If he hadn't been shot with the arrow, he would have killed him. Crazy. And then Novak's like, oh no, you're not going to die. Because the thing is, I feel that Novak has realized that Aksha is not going to talk. He's not afraid to die. And that's the thing. When he asked him if he was afraid to die back last episode, I think that was also Novak's way of gauging, being like, if we torture this man, he's probably not going to tell us anything because he does not care. And if he assaulted me, he doesn't care to die, and he's going to die anyway. So what does he have to lose? That's the thing. Whenever he normally tortures people, there is on the other side of it the idea of, yeah, I'm going to break your jaw open. Yeah, it'll take you a year to be able to speak again. Yeah, you're going to have your nails ripped out. But then after you serve some time, you're going to get released and you still get to be alive. The moment that Aksha attacked him and he was like, you are not afraid to die and you're going to die, so why would you tell us anything? You have nothing to gain from that. And he's very upfront with him in the Inquisition chamber, like, we could torture you, and we're going to, but we're not anticipating you telling us anything. What they're doing is they are anticipating Badeni. We're not there yet. He's anticipating Badeni talking, because they're going to torture Aksha. And he's like, we're anticipating Badeni. Badeni has a little more self-preservation than you do. He's going to talk. You are going to die, and that's going to be the end of it. Which that still image from episode 1 is going to come back next week, and I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready for it to come full circle. I just, nope, not at all. I love there's a shot of Novak, like, maybe 3 minutes in, and he just looks, like a minute 30, and not even that, and he just looks so smug. Like, just, how dare he. So yeah, they saved him. They sure did. We're going to skip this intro and get into this episode. This episode being called Freedom. I love the scene of modern AU which, modern AU Aksha could have the long hair too. Totally could happen. But little floofy hair, Aksha, which the bag's under his eyes, y'all. I want to give him an eye mask. I want to give him eye cream. I want to help this poor man. Like, him with the short little fluffy hair, having the dream with his mentor, his teacher. And it's like a dream, but also it's kind of, it feels almost like, it felt like he was in heaven in a moment. Like, this was him in the afterlife. This was him looking down, looking up at the tower, like seeing what normal humans couldn't see. For Aksha to have dreams like this is pretty interesting, because Aksha, up until the last few episodes, I'm sure Badeni would especially agree, Aksha did not seem like the person who would have these really complex, layered, philosophical dreams, but here he is having them, which I think is really nice, because I think a lot of people get the rap of being, and I hate to use this word, of being simple, and people are like, oh, well, they're basic, or they're simple, or they don't really think, they don't, think critically and things like that. But Aksha's dream is very much indicative of this idea that they're capable of it, absolutely. And so I love this dream. Also, it paints his teacher in a more positive light, whereas Aksha, when we first met him, his teacher seemed like he was a very negative character. And I don't know if it's a different teacher. I can't quite remember back from that first episode we met him. But here, the teacher almost seems to recognize that Akshay, like, hey, you're researching, you're doing this. Or it could be that this is not his original teacher and it's just a new one that he's imagining, like, at the university that he wants to go to, right? He wants to go to university, and this is like a fictional teacher that's been made up in his mind that he's encountering at the university, and then it takes him out to this tower. He's like, this feels like a dream. This entire scene felt like something from Attack on Titan. I'm just saying, I kept getting all of the vibes from it. And I love this line where the line he says here, he's like, oh, I can't make public this stuff about heliocentrism because, you know, then I'll get in trouble. And he's like, oh, but you have to make it public. And he kind of says, if you don't make it public, how can anyone debate it? And that's kind of, I feel like that covers all manners of sins. Like, there's a lot of information out there that people, you know, necessarily won't want to talk about because it's sensitive or because it might cause a debate. And I'm kind of like, but we need to talk about it. I definitely connected in that moment because there's been series I've watched not ORB, I have nothing bad to say about ORB. ORB is amazing. But there's series that I've watched that have, you know, areas where I felt were maybe lacking or areas that I felt like, well, this is good, but it could be better if maybe this. And I feel like sometimes when people bring that up, that especially in fandoms, a lot of times reactors won't talk about anything bad about a series because the fandom cannot critically comprehend that a series, even a 10 out of 10 series, can have things that are questionable to an audience about it. And sometimes critiques and things that are negative do not mean that the entire series is negative in itself. Sometimes things that can be critiqued or things that can be debated make that series good because it makes you question things. It makes you talk about it. It makes you have a debate. It makes you challenge your knowledge about things. It makes you challenge your perspective. And that's not a bad thing if there are things that you want to be challenged within a show. And sometimes I feel when I talk about those things, because I can get passionate about it, it seems like I hate the show because of these challenging things. But the reality is I love the show, but I feel like we need to talk about them and maybe think about what do these things do and how do they need to be addressed? And so it's interesting. But yeah, I really connected with that sentence a lot. I liked that. And so then he takes him to the tower. I love the tower. I love that it's just the same. It's from the OP. So that now that all makes sense. We're like, why does Akshay have his hair cut short in the OP? Are we going to get a flashback? Well, it's not a flashback. It's a dream. A dream is what we get. But I love that it's just the same layer after layer after layer after layer. I love the symbolism of this tower. It has Tower of Babel references. It has like, I kept thinking of Seraph at the End, especially in the manga where I'm at now. I kept thinking of the fact that they're all the same layers on top of one another kind of gives rise to this notion that like Badeni was like, well, I'm special. I'm taking this heliocentric model and I'm going to publish it and I'm going to be the forefather of this. Yeah, well, Count Pias thought the same thing. And the guy before Count Pias thought the same thing. And the guy before him. And the guy before him. You have to, I like this idea that the tower represents this metaphor of you have to keep stacking these same types of research, these same figures, their same endeavors. You have to stack them one on top of each other to keep the knowledge train building, to keep the knowledge tower building. But don't think for a second that you are different than that person before you in terms of, oh, I'm going to be the last person that ever talks about this. No, someone else will come after you and build on top of the tower and take your research to the next level. I love what that represents. That's so good. And it makes sense for Akshay because Akshay, you know, this is his vision of it. And it leads to the stars. I love it. I love that. He's like, don't be silly. Soon we'll reach the heavens. You know, I still have trouble believing that this earth we stand upon is round. And when the tower is finished, we'll look down on the earth with our own eyes. The crazy thing is we've already done that. We've already been to space. We already have spaceships that can see our earth from space and see that it's round and see how the colors of it, the land, the sea, like it's so inspiring to think. I mean, there's in the metaphorical sense, it's this idea that we keep on advancing knowledge to get closer and closer to the capital T truths. But at the same time, we've kind of already done it physically to see the world. So I love that. Also, it's kind of it's a different way of looking at the Icarus metaphor, because I like that the tower's not getting closer to the sun, like the Icarus metaphor, which is all about a cautionary tale of trying to get farther beyond your reach, and then you end up falling and drowning because you get in too deep. Here, it's more of, instead of flying with wax wings and not having that foundation under you to steady you, it's the concept of science and research, and the idea that if you fall, you're not going to fall far because there's a foundation under you. There's a foundation. People have researched that for you. They've built that foundation, and they've built it up so that you don't have as far to fall if you don't make it. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. It's so good. It's so good. Its shape, its color, its size. And Aksha's like, I don't know how we're going to do this. Like, I cannot get over, like, Aksha in this dream looking like he has, like, the eyeliner all around, which is just his bags under his eyes and his sleep-deprived self. I want to hug him. And he's like, is it okay to build something like this? And the guy says, whether or not it's okay, there's no way to stop it. And I feel like that is the thing. Humanity is, by its nature and design, curious. By its nature and design, it wants knowledge. It wants answer. The human species wants to discover things and to research and find things out. We are inherently curious beings. And the man in Aksha's dream is saying, like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't, or maybe we couldn't, but we're going to try, because humanity is a resilient species. It's going to keep trying. And he's like, why did you choose to study heliocentrism? And Aksha's like, well, I wanted to have hope. And he's like, so that's how you perceived it. That's the superficial reason that you've created. And then he goes on to say, in that moment, you're pursuing a grander ideal and you're driven by it. Again, the Attack on Titan vibes are just so there. They're so there. The idea, you're a servant, a slave to that ideal. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Those of you that are at Attack on Titan, y'all can comment down below with me, because I was just on cloud 9. You are not mindful of that idea. You believe it to be something you'll never have. And it's the concept of freedom. The truth is, we're all born with it. We all have it to varying degrees. We have freedom, but it's how we conceptualize it. It's how we believe ourselves to have it. It's how we interpret freedom. What is freedom to you? Freedom to you may be different than my version of freedom. And so, but it's the ideal of it. Humans naturally long for it. It can be financial freedom. It can be career freedom. It can be freedom to live wherever you want to. It can be freedom to marry whoever you want to. It can be freedom to love whoever you want to, or not love whoever you want to. It can be freedom to go anywhere that you want, or freedom to have a stable home. Like it's defined in many ways, but we all desire to have, in some form or another, a form of freedom. And that desire is worthy of respect. And Aksha's like, well, you're saying a bunch of really good things, mister, but what are you trying to get at altogether? What grand ideal? What is driving me? And I like that the dream subconscious here is telling him, he's like, I can't answer that for you. You're the one that's going to come out and say it, not me. It's from the bottom of your heart. And it's that notion of freedom. I like when he wakes up and looks over at Nowak. He's like, oh, hey, like it just looked like Nowak was in the process of grabbing a pillow and being like, oh, hey, you're awake. Oh, never mind. Like, hey, don't mind me. He's like, you really woke up. So he's been asleep for a week. Now, that in itself, I was like, oh, good. Badeni's gotten away. No, that just means they've had a week to capture him. Because, you know what? That all makes sense, because even though Badeni is smart, he is the most, like, conspicuous person in this series with his bald head, facial scars, and giant eye patch. Like, he looks the most conspicuous. Only if he had shaved his head, found some foundation, and got rid of the eye patch could he have fooled him, but that wasn't going to happen. He has a brand to maintain, you know? So yeah, it's not surprising that they caught Badeni, but I was really not wanting it or expecting it. I was like, damn it. So Nowak basically tells him, yeah, we're going to kill you later. You killed 3 men and assaulted me. So yeah, you're going to die. But we're going to try to get some information out of you, or, you know, your partner. Gonna talk about that in a second. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to freak out yet. So we're good. When Nowak asked the personal question, though, this is getting to the heart of the matter. The thing that's crazy to me is I was expecting him to talk about Yolenta. And I'm surprised. We're going to talk about Badeni not giving Yolenta away. I think that's part of his overall plan, and we just don't know it as the audience yet. And it's framed as a, wow, Badeni's had a change of heart, and he actually does care about her. Because Akshay was the one that was like, oh, they're going to give her away. Badeni's going to immediately throw her under the bus, but he doesn't. And you could argue that Badeni grew a heart and he's wanting to spare her, but I'm like, no, I think he's using her to get the heliocentric theory out, and she's the bargaining chip of, oh, well, if you go after her, you're going to have to kill your own daughter. So you're going to do that? Are you going to do that? Is your conviction to your faith strong enough to kill your own flesh and blood? You going to do that? So we'll see. We'll see if that ends up happening. I don't know. We'll see if that ends up happening. But I the moment Badeni said no, there's half of my heart was like, oh, wow. Badeni became a better person and didn't throw her under the bus because he cares about her. And the other half of me was like, he's using her to get the heliocentric theory out, and she's backup, and she's the trump card. We'll see. We'll see which happens. When all this is said and done, if Nowak goes home and is like, hey, Yolenta, and she's gone, and she flew the coop, and Badeni wrote his letter and gave it to her, and it has something to do with Nowak, we'll see. We'll see. But what I'm interested in is that for Nowak, this is personal. This is not just business. This is not just, if it was just business, he would just torture Akshay and Badeni and move on. But it's personal for two reasons. One, because they involved his daughter. And he doesn't know how much they've involved his daughter, but he just knows they've been around her. And maybe Nowak is telling himself, if he doesn't already believe it or whatever, if he's in denial, maybe he's telling himself, he's like, oh, my daughter wasn't involved. She's not involved in all this. Surely not. So we'll see. We'll see about that. But what I was going to say is that for him, it's not just personal because of his daughter, but he's been carrying around this decade-long weight caused by a 12-year-old boy in his heart. And it is just eating him away. It's eating him. Like, why did this 12-year-old kid kill himself for the sake of the heliocentric theory? He's like, I don't think Raffle was possessed by the devil. I don't think he was possessed by a demon. So why did he do it? Why did he have this much faith in this? Why did he go against the church? And Nowak it's so interesting to see Nowak be weak. Like, he basically in this moment, he's like, if we live a good, quiet life, we can go to heaven, which has Nowak lived a good and quiet life? Has he really? Is he telling himself that? Because he's not lived a good and quiet life. Maybe he believes he's lived a good life, but certainly not been quiet. But what was interesting to me was when he started out saying that, I'm like, you sound just like Akshay. Just like Akshay. Like you've convinced yourself that if you just play your part, everything will work out for you and your family. And so he can't understand this concept of how people, if they're not driven by the devil, why do they choose this? Why would they sacrifice themselves and their livelihood for the sake of this ideal that goes against the promise of heaven and of, essentially a form of freedom itself? In essence, I guess. I mean, the goal of heaven it's a form of freedom, because it's like, whenever someone dies and they're like, oh, they're in a better place now, they're not in pain anymore. That in itself is a form of freedom, because you're like, okay, well, they're free of pain, they're free of suffering. And so Nowak kind of believes in that version, and my dogs have probably seen a squirrel outside. But he's like, why would you choose against that? But it's this concept that freedom is not the same for everybody. And he's like, I've spoken with heretics, and it's not that simple. A lot of them are sound mind. What were you thinking? And that's when Akshay goes into the idea about, he's like, I basically was seeking freedom. And Novak's like, okay. He's like, but without a code of law, we're no different from beasts. And I would challenge that, because I'm like, really? Whenever people say that, they're like, we're no different than animals if we don't have a code of law. And I'm like, well, one, humans are more hyper intelligent than most species, so that separates us automatically. Two, we are we are organized routine creatures, which does make us like some beasts, like cows are creatures of routine too. But we inherently have the ways of doing critical thinking and logic and things that no other species on Earth can do to the same degree. So it's kind of like that whole thing of, well, without a church and without a code of law, we're no different than animals. I'm like, well, we already are kind of different. So it's like, that theory doesn't hold as much water as I think some people believe it does. Because then Aksha says, well, yeah, you could be right about that. But if we can't question that code, we're no different from beasts either. He's like, you're following a routine that has been the same for 2,000 years. How's that any different than a damn cow? Than livestock? Livestock follow routines over and over again because that makes sense to them. And because they need that routine to exist. If you follow a routine and never question it, you're no different than livestock. And he's not wrong. And Novak's like, well, blah, 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 doesn't common sense tell you you've gone too far? And Aksha's like, oh, I'm too traumatized for common sense. He's like, you killed 3 of my men. And Aksha's like, and then I like that Novak kind of gets a little condescending to Aksha. He's like, well, you killed 3 of my men. Talk about blind faith. And Aksha's like, well, I wasn't trying to. I tried to avoid their vital spots. They died. And what I wanted Aksha to say was like, wow, you guys didn't really commit to not to saving them like you committed to saving me. Granted, different strokes, different folks, because the injuries they sustained, I don't know if the blood loss could have been helped by the time they made it back. But he's like, we each fought for our convictions. I'm telling you, Attack on Titan, I'm telling you, we fought for our convictions, so. And then he says, either way, there's nothing more for me to say. And here's the thing. I think Novak, when the moment they got back, he's like, we have to find Badeni because Aksha's going to tell us nothing. He has nothing to say. He knows nothing. Badeni has kept him in the dark just enough. When he gives a, I want to say when he comes around the corner. Okay, so we flash back to him with his book, right? And Badeni has the candle. I'm not ready to fangirl yet. This is just going to be a little micro fangirling before we get to the 2 of them in the Inquisition chamber together. But the moment that the Aksha comes around the corner, he's like, hey, I finished my book. Want to read it? And Badeni's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, the look on his face. He's like, can I ask you, And so he asks what happened to the stone chest. He's like, I was going to put my book in there. And Badeni's like, oh, I burned all the documents. Now, did he actually burn all the documents? Probably. I would believe that. Did he toss the stone chest down a ravine? I don't know if I believe that. Because that stone chest was pretty damn heavy. Badeni is one person. Did he really get that stone chest down a ravine? Did he really do that? Did he? He had Aksha dig the tunnel. Did he? I don't know, but I believe Aksha would believe him that he did it. He may have burned all the documents inside. He may absolutely have, or he may not have. He may have left them for Yolenta. I don't know. Badeni is interesting because once he's lied once, it makes you reconsider everything he tells Aksha in this episode. And Badeni is smart because he's like, okay, I've told Aksha that I've burned all the documents. Now, I want him to know and believe that I did. Even if I didn't. So when Aksha hands him his book, he's like, well, it's just his book. It's not going to be whatever. And he burns it right in front of him, which Aksha is very rightfully sad. I'm like, if you spent all that time burning, like making that book, and Aksha's like, I spent a lot of time on that book. And Badeni's like, yeah, no. He's like, all evidence should obviously be burned. To me, I feel like it could be one of 2 things. Badeni could have actually burned all the documentation like he said he did, or to prove to Aksha that he was willing and capable of burning everything, he burned Aksha's book in front of him to make a point and say, see, we have to burn everything. Leave no evidence behind. So, yeah. And by saying that he destroyed the stone chest and getting Aksha to believe that he destroyed the stone chest, if they are interrogated, Badeni will be like, I don't know anything. There's no stone chest. Well, he was banking on if Aksha got captured and tortured, that Aksha would not say anything because one, now Aksha believes there's no stone chest, so there's no point in even bringing up where it is or that the necklace leads you to it because that's not going to matter. Two, there's no documents left in it because he believes Badeni burned them all. His book is gone, so there's nothing to mention there. All that's left is the heliocentric treatise or book that Badeni has created, and as far as we know, that's been turned into the Inquisition right now unless it's a fake or unless it's not the full thing. I don't know. But the book could be given to, in the OP, the one Antony. Antony is holding the book, I think, in the OP, so he could be given it, and he might do something with it because he doesn't like his dad. Has daddy issues. We'll see where that goes. But I'm so curious. I don't know if Badeni planned on being used as the one being tortured and Aksha being the bait. God, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. I'm not ready. He's like, we don't have anything to hand over. And he says, even if we tell the truth. Now, Aksha's saying this, say we burned all the evidence, will they believe us? What if they keep torturing us? And Badeni's like, well, then we have to deal with the nightmare in front of us. And I'm not ready to say it. I'm going to freak out. But yes, so Badeni, the nightmare in front of him is Aksha being tortured. But Aksha's like, I don't have anything to say, and we have nothing to give them, so he's just going to have to endure it. And the thing is, Aksha is so pure-hearted that he will say nothing because he doesn't care if he's tortured or not. It doesn't matter to him. Now, Badeni? I don't know. Will Badeni crack? I don't know. And he's like, you weigh the bargaining chips on a scale with the target's convictions. Most of the time, that means weighing their desire not to reveal information against the bargaining chip of ending the pain by disclosing it. And then he's like, you're the bargaining chip. We know that you, Aksha, are not going to crack because you have nothing to say. And you're not afraid to die. So you don't care about ending the pain because you know that you're going to die anyway. So torturing you will give us no information. We know that. But torturing you might make somebody that cares about you disclose some information. And Aksha's like, but who would care about me? I'm trying not to scream because I don't want to blow your eardrums out. But when you all told me weeks ago that you were all proponents, or many of you said you were proponents of the Aksha and Badeni ship, I was like, yeah, I see it. I see Badeni as the little yellow cat tsundere who is next to the big black Labrador. Like, I get the vibes. I see it. I get that. He's like, that gets most people to talk, but sometimes you get someone strange, and I don't know if they have a death wish or they've simply lost their senses. And it's like, well, traumatized by raffle much, but normal methods of torture don't work against those people. In those cases, you have to have more effective bargaining chips. For example, the threat of inflicting pain on their family, friends, or collaborators. And then he like wings the hand on the collaborators, and Aksha's like, but who would that be? He's like, oh no, you don't get it. You're the bargaining chip. And then there's Badeni. He'll tell us what we need to know. And then there's the book that Aksha has. So, oh my gosh. Okay, yes. You mean to tell me, I was expecting Aksha getting tortured. I was expecting it. From that scene I've been going on and on about from episode 1. I expected it. But I did not expect for Badeni to not be tortured, but Badeni to mentally be tortured by watching his friend get tortured beside him to get him to talk. This not only finished construction on the ship, this took a champagne bottle, smashed it up against it, sent it sailing off into the night, into the starry reflected seas. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say about the concept of these two men facing each other as one man's tortured, another man's expected to talk? The shipping is, there is no limit. Nope. And Badeni is trying to steal himself. Bless his heart, we don't have his eye patch. He's like, we'll get started. I like that we look over and see where the ink and quill is. So we're not even tearing off fingernails. We're going straight to just bludgeoning people and the pair of anguish. Yep. And so he asks Badeni, he's like, have you ever attended a black mass? And Badeni's like, no, I haven't. And he's like, the next question is an important one. With regard to your research, do you have any collaborators? And I feel as if this is Badeni and Badeni's mindset of looking at Yolenta. But I can't tell if it's really Badeni or if it's Aksha thinking about that in the moment. If we're arrested, I'll say we were deceived by a witch. And then Aksha, I feel like this is Aksha thinking this because Aksha's thinking back. I know it showed us Badeni's face before going to the flashback, but Aksha's the one that has the reaction. And then Aksha looks and thinks of Yolenta being connected to Nowak because, I mean, that's his daughter. And, like, Aksha doesn't want Yolenta to get hurt. But again, Badeni believing... Badeni's saying that they have none. I'm like, ooh. And he's like, okay, I see. And here's the thing. Novak's not going to challenge that because he doesn't want his daughter revealed as a heretic. Now, I still maintain that it is possible that Badeni planned ahead and has Yolenta as part of this and is using her to help get his heliocentric theory into more capable hands. And I feel like Badeni, knowing that she gave the treaties to Colby and did it on his behalf. Oh, there's two ways this could go. Again, I could be entirely wrong. So please, if I'm wrong on this, just take it with a grain of salt. I'll find out in the next few episodes. But if Badeni gave her this theory and was like, I need you to go take it and get it published, it could be that Badeni was planning on her taking it from him and handing it in Badeni's name because she's done that for Colby. She knows her place as a woman in society and what she needs to do. And Badeni's like, yes, she's going to turn it in my name and I'm going to get all the credit. It will be fine in the end. But what if she was like, I'm going to turn it in my own name? What if she did? And what if, because I was fully expecting this episode to see the two Inquisition young men. I was fully anticipating seeing them in this episode, watching this go down. But now that we know Nowak is like, when Nowak has his entire spiel about Raffle, I'm like, okay, that's why they're not here. Because otherwise I don't think Nowak would reveal that information with other Inquisitioners in the room. He just does it in front of those two because they're heretics. And he's like, I'm picking the mind of that's similar of how'd you get this necklace of that heretic that I met 10 years ago. I fully think, and I'm not going to back down from this until I'm proven wrong, and the show will prove me wrong, and then I'll be like, okay, cool. I think those two young Inquisitioners are going to take Yolenta into custody, and I think they're going to torture her. I don't want that to happen to her. I want Yolenta to have a happy life and be safe and be alive and be fine, and I wish that for her. I don't want anything bad to happen to her, but I think they're going to do it. I think Novak's going to eat his words, and it's going to punish him. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong. He says, okay, I see. He's like, we're warmed up now. To be honest, those questions were the ones I was required to ask. But what I really want to ask you is the next one. And Badeni's like, okay, what? And he's like, well, I owe you both thanks. I'm embarrassed to say it, but because of you, I've become aware of my mistakes. And I've been negligent with dealing with you all. And I have had opportunities to change, but I had a glaringly obvious chance. But I turned away, forgot about it, and avoided making changes. And because of that error, I allowed you heretics to commit the barbaric act of getting involved with my daughter. Yeah, it's like, well, of approaching my beloved daughter. Approaching. I don't think Nowak wants to contemplate the idea that they've worked with her. But they have, and I feel like that's going to come out eventually, but we'll see. But then he says, I had opportunities to stop you, but I didn't. So he basically is referring to the fact that with Raffle 10 years ago, he kind of followed Raffle around. He let Raffle get more information. He let Raffle continue his theorizing and get to the point where he could leave something behind for future heretics to find rather than just snuffing out the problem immediately. And he acknowledges that he did the same thing here where instead of punishing those two immediately when he had a hunch, he let it go on and on and on long enough for his daughter to get involved, or almost get involved, to what he's saying here. But he's like, that necklace you have belonged to him. And Badeni's like, wow, you've been carrying around this grudge against this kid for 10 years? Okay. He's like, I don't know how, but it crossed time and space to enter your hands. I'm like, no, it just passed like a torch from one person to the next. What are you talking about? He's like, if I had been more diligent in my work, I could have prevented all of this. As a parent, there's no greater shame. I just feel there's so much being laid on thick here in Novak's case that I'm like, I just feel like it would be the most tragic poeticness. It would be the ultimate tragedy if Nowak, who passed on the cycle of violence and the cycle of hatred towards intellectual curiosity to these new inquisitioners, if that passing of the torch that he did caused his daughter, who is his pride and joy, who is the one person he cares about, to be questioned. Like, that would be, and as a parent, there's no greater shame, but is there no greater shame, or getting your child caught up in the cycle of violence that you've continued? That might rival it. That might rival it. And I think that's what's going to happen, but I could be proven wrong. Yeah, and he's like, my eyes are finally open. It's like, sure they are. They're probably going to be opened even more in the episodes to come. He's like, you all inherited your research somewhere, so where are they? And this goes back to when auction, then we're figuring out what they do. So Badeni's like, well, I've burned everything. He's like, nope, I have no interest in honoring my predecessors or passing on the fruits of my research. I hate to tell you, but I burned all the old materials. The treatise you confiscated during my arrest is all that is left of the heliocentric theory. Here's the thing. I kind of get what Nowak is saying, because when Badeni is going on this drawl about it, he does not have his usual air of confidence that he's shown in the past, or his smugness of, well, I did this and now it's gone. He doesn't have that. And I don't know if it's just the fact that he's trying to be precarious and trying to be calm and collected so that Aksha doesn't get tortured more. But I'm kind of with Nowak. I think he's lying. I don't think he's completely telling the truth. He's like, that's why torturing Aksha is a waste of time. The moment he said that, which my shipper brain, I was like, oh my God. The moment he said that, I was like, oh, no. You should have just stopped there. Because the moment he said torturing Aksha is a waste of time, Nowak was like, oh, so you don't want him tortured. That's why you're saying what you're saying, so I'll stop. Oh yeah, okay, cool. You're lying. Like, and he's like, now, what does Badeni say there? He says, it's the truth. Moving on. I like that Badeni, now, this is something that I would expect Badeni to do, where he's like, moving on, like, sir, you're being tortured, and your friend is being tortured, and you're like, actually, let's change the subject. He's like, moving on, what I'd like to discuss is whether heliocentrism is really blasphemy. And Novak's like, no. The laugh that Suda gives as Nowak in this moment is chilling. That laugh is a laugh that only maybe Miyana Mamoru and Suda could pull off. Being just bone chilling, where Nowak is like, oh, no. We're not going to talk about that right now. We're not going to do any of that. He's like, no. He's like, I have been working very diligently. You must really take us for fools. Because I've been working every day. I may have been negligent, but I have been able to tell when people are lying. And that moment where he is facing Badeni face to face, and you can barely see, all you can see is the top part of Novak's hair and his eyes and him looking at Badeni, and his entire face is shrouded in the shadows. Oh. And he's like, well, are there any logical inconsistencies in what I said? Again, Badeni doesn't look mad or look like... I feel like if Badeni wasn't lying, whenever Nowak said that, he would have been offended and been like, I'm telling the truth. But the fact that he tries to say, was there any logical inconsistencies? He's like, oh no, your story makes sense. But what I focus on is emotions. They reveal what reason does not. And what does he say there? And the emotions my eyes perceived from you is that you're hiding something. And then he pulls out that damn pair of anguish, which they didn't bother wiping the rusty blood off. That thing is disgusting. That thing probably has like 8,000 biohazard diseases laden in it. Like, Aksha's gonna die anyway, but oh my god. Oh, let's find the basis. You all are telling me that we're gonna get this extended into next week. And you all are telling me that I'm going to watch Badeni watch Aksha being tortured like that. Ah! Oh my god! Oh my god! Y'all. I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for it. I'm not. But this episode, my ship has never been more sailing for Aksha and Badeni than it is now. But I'm terrified for both of them next week, and it's going to be hard to wait. It's going to be hard to wait, but I'm going to be very trepidatious going into next week. I'm going to wait until I read the comments for episodes 11 and 10, and then I'll go to it. But I hope you all enjoyed this reaction discussion. I am very curious to hear your thoughts down below, but I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah. I'm back next week with more of Orb on the movements of the earth. Oh my gosh!